Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Love of Heart Movement Radio Show. This is Cheryl Jones, your Queen of Hearts, and I'm so glad that you're here with us today. We have the awesome pleasure of introducing you and hearing from Sean Doro. Sean is an author. He is a motivator. He's a speaker. He's a coach. He's just a wonderful man. So, Sean, are you here with us?
I am here. How are you, Cheryl?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad you're here to share with us today. So glad. Well, first of all, I'd just like to start by you telling us a little bit about yourself, just whatever you'd like to share with the audience.
Sure. Well, first of all, I thank you for this opportunity. I always enjoy being in your company, and I get the privilege to speak to your guests as well, or your audience. But a little bit about me. I am first of all, a business person, entrepreneur, author, and most importantly, a man of God. I work in the financial industry, but I coach, counsel, and consult college graduates, business professionals, as well as entrepreneurs in how to increase their capital, tame their consumption, and find their clarity. And I do this by showing them how to cash in on themselves and leap towards their success. And LEAP is an acronym I love to use. And it stands for leverage everything and prosper. And I truly try to help people do that, Cheryl. So many people are walking around with so many gifts inside of them, but they don't know how to expose them, utilize them, leverage them, and maximize them. And that's what I come alongside in my coaching and consulting business. So it's a little bit about me. Married for 20-plus years, have two beautiful daughters, and live here in Dallas, Texas.
Wonderful. Wow, audience, I hope you guys have your notepads out because he gave us a lot just with who are you. So I am truly excited about this interview because I've already taken some notes. I'm already learning something. I'm so excited, so excited. Well, I have known you, Sean, for I think just 2 years, I think it's been, maybe 3 years. But what I've seen from you in the past 2 to 3 years is you are a person that loves other people, and you really do care, and you seem very concerned with a person's well-being and how they're getting along in life. Not only how is business, but I know many times, how are you doing? And I think that that's so rare, and that's why I started the Love of Heart movement, because I think there needs to be more people in the world like us who not only cares about what's going on with your business, but we also care what's going on with your life. How can I serve you? How can I show love to you? So I just really wanted to see, where did that come from? Did you grow up like that? Did you always love people? Or is this something new that you've just incorporated into your life, or have you always cared about folks?
Well, first of all, thank you for acknowledging that I have that spirit. And you're right, I do have that foundation inside of me, and it was put inside of me by my family, obviously. I owe all the credit to my parents who taught us, me, my siblings, on how to think about others before you think about yourself. And obviously that goes so far, and as I mentioned, been married for 20 years. I had to grow up in my marriage and understood that being a husband and a father had to take a lot of focus off myself, and that has expanded over the years. So now I truly love helping and serving others. But it certainly started in my foundation with my parents. You know, we grew up in a house where it wasn't just me and my three brothers, but there was always additional people. I remember growing up in a house where I have a brother named Tony, and there was 3 Tonys in the house because, you know, my cousins and foster kids and just neighbors would come in and literally live with us for months upon a time. And so I grew up with that type of understanding that it does take a nation. It really does take a nation to raise a child, and that was imparted in me, and certainly now it's just a part of my essence. So thank you for acknowledging that, but that I can't take credit for it.
Well, see, that's good upbringing. So that's wonderful, wonderful. It's something for us to learn from and definitely replicate in our life. I'm so excited now that I have a grandchild, and that's just little things that I'm teaching my daughter to teach her daughter. It's so important that we get people when they're young. Say thank you. I remember I just went to Kroger's the other day. I think it was last Saturday, maybe the Saturday before that, and the young boy was in Boy Scouts, and he had me buy these little cards. They're like $5, and it helps the Boy Scouts, and you get some kind of a discount on your Kroger. Well, I said, okay, I'll help you out. I'll buy 2 of them. He didn't say thank you or anything, and I thought, now look at this. He didn't say thank you, ma'am, or anything. He was just so interested in getting the $5 that I guess he just didn't think anything about it, since I'm going to be getting the deal off my groceries. But it's just those little things that I think in life that times are just so different now. So it's just those little bitty things and being appreciative of what we have and what we're blessed with, because everything is a blessing. Nothing is, required to happen to us. I think everything that we get is truly a blessing. So it's, it's good to take that time to just, really appreciate what we have. Definitely. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, that leads me to another question. Everybody has a purpose in life, and I know many times that's where a lot of people struggle. This question is kind of twofold. First of all, how did you find your purpose, and how do you guide people to find their purpose?
Yeah, that's a great question, and you're right. I believe, like you, Cheryl, that everyone has a purpose in their life. It's now a matter of identifying it, and then once you identify it, you utilize it, maximize it, and then go out and share it with the world. But how I found my passion and my purpose was really, it was through my pain. As I mentioned in the introduction, I'm in the financial world, so I really do help people in terms of managing the money, but I never talk about money when I'm dealing with people. I talk about things that are behind the money, because I know for most people, they don't have money problems. I dealt with it in my own life when I was growing up and becoming a man, if you will. I was battling bills, broke. I had bad credit, borderline bankruptcy, and I was failing at being a good steward, of being a good husband, being a good father. And it wasn't until I really understood the responsibilities that come along with this thing called manhood and fatherhood and husband that I started getting things together. So through my pain, I realized that I needed to do better. And once I did better and I really started getting momentum behind the fixing it, I started realizing that other people was in the same situation that I was in, and they were coming to me like I had gone to my mentor for help. So through my pain was birthed my purpose, and now today I get to understand and objectively look at people and see exactly where they are because I was there. And I tell people now that I'm expanded and I do a lot of coaching and consulting, not just from people that's dealing with financial destitutes, but just people who are looking for clarity and trying to shift or trying to go to another level. I tell people to really define your purpose is that you have to either look at, if you don't have the passion, and a lot of people say today they don't have their passions or they don't know what their passions are. But I tell them you may want to look at your pain/problems, because I guarantee you if you identify your pain/problems, your purpose is probably locked inside of that. You just have to pull it out, dust it off, shine it up, and start putting it to work.
Yes, that is so awesome. That is so awesome. I think that is so important as we're leading and guiding others. We just really need to, just guide them the best way we can. And I agree with you. A lot of people lack passion nowadays. I feel like I really have been blessed in the fact that since I started my company almost 10 years ago, I still wake up excited to this day about what I'm doing and who I'm touching every day. But there's a lot of people that don't have that. And it's really a huge shift, I think. A lot of different things are coming our way in terms of opportunities and whatnot. And I think that as we share with people, you only live once. And it's important to get to that purpose and that passion as soon as you possibly can. Because, as great things are going, you don't know what your life is going to end up. So I would hate for you to live your whole life and not be operating in your passion and your purpose. So it's so important, definitely.
That is so true, Cheryl. And I also tell people that, if it's not a pain, because, again, I don't want to make it sound like to your listening audience if they say, well, I don't have a pain or I don't have a problem, then I would then tell them, then you need to scratch that itch, whatever it is that you know that you feel like you should be doing. You know, everybody has either a passion, a pain, or if it's not quite painful enough, there's still something in the back of your mind saying, I need to do this. I should do this. I must do this. That's that itch that you need to scratch, and you shouldn't ignore it because that's what you were designed and appointed to do.
Yes, so true, definitely. Well, that leads me to another question. What do you think has been a challenge for you? And I think you kind of alluded to this already, a challenge that you had to overcome and what you learned in the process. And that could be personal or business-wise.
Sure. As you mentioned, I kind of alluded to what really birthed my business and my mission and my passion. But even before then, I think bigger than that was how I got in that situation. And it was my limiting beliefs and my rehearsal of I'm not good enough or who do I think I am. You know, Cheryl, I knew when I was a young man that I was supposed to help people with their finances. I knew my calling literally at 12. And yet I was always listening to the naysayers, and the naysayers were nothing but the voices inside my head saying, "Who do you think you are?" I would look at the people on TV or read about people in books. And I was like, I don't have those credentials. I didn't do this. I didn't start this multi-million-dollar business. However, I would always get the affirmation and confirmation from people when I would take a complex situation dealing with finances and make it simple and understandable. And people would say, I've never heard it broken down to me like this. And I would just think, well, you just don't get it. But I didn't realize that was a gift. And it is a gift that was given to me. But the naysayers, the voices, the limited beliefs, the imposter syndrome that I was literally surrounded by most of my young adult life, put me in that situation where I started to believe it. And before I knew it, I was, as I mentioned, really in financial destitute. I certainly wasn't believing my own press in terms of wanting to help people with their finances because I couldn't help myself. And it wasn't until I really owned up to who I was, what I was supposed to be, and then started working my way towards that I get over those limiting beliefs and started muting the voices that was in my head.
Wow. That kind of brings me to another point. I don't know if you've read, and I'm sure you have, this book by Bruce Wilkerson called The Dream Giver. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny that you mentioned that because that kind of reminds me of The Dream Giver, and it kind of gives you it talks about the limiting beliefs that you might have going on. And people don't realize how important it is to change your self-talk. Because if you're listening to something that is not good for you, that's not serving your greater good, you've really got to change it in order to make positive changes in your life. So I encourage people to find the resources that you need. It may be that you need the resources of another person. You may need to talk to someone at your church. You may need to talk to a friend. You may need a mentor, a counselor, or whatnot. You guys, this is the time in life that you just need to take somebody and say, hey, can I talk to you? I remember when you came and presented at my Lunch and Learn, Sean, that people were eager to get up and speak with you. And that's just a gift because a lot of times when you speak of money, people kind of run from you. And, they don't want to deal with the scary part, but you make it very easy to have that conversation, and just let everybody know, hey, everybody goes through problems from time to time, and it can be overcome. So I love that you share that with people. Do you think that you ever recommend, I know you have your book, I know you recommend that to people, don't you? But any other thing that you recommend to people that may be going through some challenges?
Well, it's so funny. Let me just step back and tell you that you mentioned The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkerson. I was doing an interview on a podcast probably last week, and they asked me what was my top 3 books, and that was definitely in my top 3. I read that book. Seriously, I read that book probably once a quarter because you're absolutely right. That book is so important to understand when God is ordained and giving you something to go after, the obstacles, the barriers, and the issues that you'll have to face. And a lot of times, some of them, you have to look in the mirror and say, I got to overcome these first. But in terms of other books, there's a few that I would certainly recommend, but I would start with where a person is, and once I determine and help them out and see where they are, then I'll point them in a different that type of book. Where I'm really right now helping people create. My company's name is the Wealth Shift Project, and I'm helping people really create wealth shifts. And that wealth means something different for everybody. For some people, that means $1 million in the next 2 years. Other people, that just means coming out of debt. Other people, that means funding their children or grandchildren's college savings. So I'll get them a book that really starts with what it means to be wealthy. I'm thinking about Dennis Kimbrough's book. It's called The Wealth Choice. Very good book, and he interviews 7 billionaires, African-American billionaires, and he talked about them because, again, all of them came from humble beginnings, and he gives principles that I teach, too, that you must have to have a wealth mindset, and then, obviously, to put that mindset into action, if you will. So I start with that book with a lot of situations, but, again, it can go different paths based on what that person's looking for, what they need at that time. But I definitely will give them that foundation, and of course, I'll always provide them with some Word of God, because that's what I'll start a lot and tell them that's what got my finances in the right place when I really start putting the Bible and some other principles in place. So there's too many to name, but I'll give that one as a start. Dennis Kimbrough, The Wealth Choice.
That is awesome. Well, that is wonderful. That's a good one. I hadn't heard of that one. So I have his other one, Think and Grow Rich, The Black Choice, but I didn't know about this other one, so that's perfect. I love new resources, definitely. Well, audience, I hope that you are taking notes and learning everything that you can. And what the main thing that I want you to learn from Sean today is just know that anything is possible, number one. And number two, don't be afraid to ask. Because when you ask, that's where the help lies. People really, sometimes they're so private, and especially nowadays, it just seems like, people just kind of stay to themselves with whatever. But if you're hurting, there's relief that can be given to you. There can be, if we can't do anything but pray for you. Sometimes you just need somebody to take your hand and pray with you, So always ask. I tell people, in order to GET, you got to ASK, and that is just so important. You've just got to do that, definitely. Well, Sean, I want to turn the corner a little bit, and I want to ask you about the 15-year-old Sean. If you know a young man that was just like you, I don't know if you were shy or outgoing at 15, but think about the way you were at 15, and if you could speak to that young man, what advice would you give him?
Yeah, I was definitely a shy 15-year-old. I was somebody that was self-conscious, didn't think that I had what it took, and as I mentioned, that bled over to my young adult life. But I would tell that young man, and I do tell young men now that I get an opportunity to mentor and pour back into them, is that first of all, you've been given something that you have a responsibility to get out of you. So don't ever think that you're walking around just existing, that you're here. But no, you've been given an assignment. So our job now is to discover that assignment and to develop it and then deliver it. And you do that not necessarily all in 1 week. It takes time. It's a process. But you always continue to focus on the prize and know that there's something inside of you that you have to deliver. So I always tell them to think of themselves like they're a FedEx person. They have a package inside of them that must be delivered, because there are voices out here right now, even though they may not realize it, may not know it, and you may not even get a chance to deliver it for another 20 years. But there are voices that are dependent upon you to deliver what you've been called to deliver. So we'll take that. I give them that information, and I say, now, that's the ending. Now we have to do some reverse engineering to get you there. And we'll start back with where you are. So what do you need at 15? Let's just start where you are. If you're shy, if you're like I was, if you're not confident like I was, then you just need some mentorship and you need some pouring into. If you're overzealous, if you're too confident, you may need some pulling back. So it just depends on where you are at 15, but at the same time, that's where we can come in and help mold and shape that person. But the main thing I'm going to tell them is you have responsibility. So let's make sure that you fulfill it.
Oh, that is wonderful, wonderful advice. And I say for a 15-year-old, that's wonderful advice. For a 45-year-old, that's wonderful advice for anyone. I mean, because I think it's so important for us to never lose sight that we were all placed here with a goal, with a gift inside of us. And it's so important to get that out. And I don't know if you've seen, I know that I've seen many times some people don't blossom until they turn 30, 40, 50 years old. I'm in my mastermind right now, and we have a lady that just came in. She's 55 years old, and she said her life really didn't begin until she turned 50 because she was so shy and just really, held back herself in life and didn't let people see the real, true blue her until she turned 50. And I thought, wow, okay. So it's so important that we're always encouraging other people to just live their best life. I know that's an Oprah term, but, I mean, I think it really says it best. There's a great life for everybody if we just choose to live it. Definitely, definitely.
Absolutely,
well, Sean,
absolutely.
Tell me this. I wanted to ask you, it's another twofold question. I'm kind of tricky that way, But I wanted to ask you about entrepreneurs. First of all, a future entrepreneur, someone who is just looking at it, maybe like me. I was at my job 2 years wondering if I should go into business. And then, secondly, a case that I see quite a bit, and I get a lot of emails and phone calls and all this, struggling entrepreneurs. Give me some advice for both of those categories, if you can.
Sure, absolutely. And I coach and consult entrepreneurs right now. Myself, I'm an entrepreneur, but and people may be listening that they're salary entrepreneurs. They're still working a 9-to-5 job, but at the same time they're trying to transition out, and I get that. So wherever you are, if you, first of all, you have inkling or a desire to be an entrepreneur, but you don't feel like you have what it takes, let me just defy that right now. You have what it takes. You just want to make sure that you have a clear, concise goal, and then you partner with someone to help you birth that goal. So it could be very much confusing, frustrating, daunting, scary to say I'm going to step out of this safe, secure world into a world of unknown, unsecure, risky, unstable, but at the same time so fulfilling because you're living life on your terms. So if you embrace that and understand that you have, as I go back and stated, you have a gift to deliver, and now you don't have to do it all by yourself. You have to understand that I need to come alongside someone who maybe can see the blind spots that I can't see. They can understand the voids, the pits, and they've been here, so they'll help me overcome some things that I'm just running up against a brick wall on. You have that type of coach, but then you also just have confidants. You have people around you. You surround yourself with people that's going to continue to lift you up, support you, and encourage you even when times get tough. So you know that you have that support system because we all need that support system when things get tough. So regardless if you're a struggling entrepreneur or if you're considering it and you don't think you don't know if you have what it takes, in either case, you need to make sure that you have the right team around you. Now, for the entrepreneur that's struggling, you also need to have somebody to come in and look at your systems to see if the system needs tweaking or if it's broken or if you just need to completely scrap it and go in a new direction. Not necessarily give up, but just retweak it, if you will, because let's just say if a person is a bake, they're baking cakes, but yet they're finding it a hard time to make a profit. Well, you don't necessarily have to go in and change up your baking skills. You don't necessarily have to go in and stop making grandma's favorite pie. But you have to understand, okay, am I doing the right business strategy behind this? Is this business scalable? Am I doing the right marketing behind it? So that's where you need to come in and say, okay, I have the idea. I've jumped. So kudos to you because you have the courage. You're out there. Now let me make sure that I have the right parachute so when I land, I don't kill myself. And that just requires, again, having another set of eyes and maybe having somebody that can help you do the strategy part of it.
That is awesome advice. It really is. I appreciate that. That is one of the main questions that I get quite a bit. And many times I tell people it may not be that your business was set up right, or it may not be that it's your time to do this. I don't know if that's making any sense the way I'm saying it, but sometimes you need to grow into things, if that makes sense. So, sometimes we jump out too fast and don't know what we're getting ourselves into, and it may need that we need to take baby steps, really, and get the thing on settled ground and go from there, definitely. Well, I appreciate that information that you shared with us on that. Well, Sean, I wanted to see if you had any announcements or seminars or anything coming up that you wanted to share with the audience. We have about 4 minutes left, and I wanted to give you enough time to share everything that you wanted to share, and then if you could leave the audience with one or two parting sentences that you would like to motivate them with, and how the audience could get in touch with you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for having me on this show. I appreciate it. I appreciate your audience for giving me an opportunity. As I mentioned, I always say I'm in the finance world, but I'm really in the field of helping people shift, not just their finances, but their life. And I do coaching, consulting, and I do group coaching as well as individual coaching. And I would love to have the opportunity for the listening audience, if they want to see more information or understand how I can help them shift in their business, in their lives, in their careers, I can certainly, as well as their finances, I can certainly assist them. If they go to thewealthshiftproject.com, that's thewealthshiftproject.com. They can get on my website. They can look at, the blogs, the podcasts, the things that I have on there, and they'll see some of the information about coaching. Or you can email me at sean@thewealthshiftproject.com. I have a few keynote speaking engagements coming up, but those are out of the ones in Florida, ones in California, and then certainly on my website, I encourage you to go on there, just peruse around it. And I always start by telling people there's a ebook that I like to give away that really helps set the foundation of anybody's goals, dreams, and desires. So I encourage you to go on the wealthshiftproject.com, get that ebook, take a look at it. It's real short, about 20 pages. But if you read it, and then if you apply it, I guarantee you that'll set the foundation to create any shift in your life that you want to have. So that's pretty much I wanted to share. I know my time's running out, but I so appreciate the opportunity, Cheryl. Obviously, as you mentioned, we've been friends for a couple of years. Our friendship continues to grow. I admire everything that you're doing, your ministry, your business, and who you are as a person. You're a shining light, and I'm just grateful to be a part of you.
Well, thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate you so much and for you sharing tonight. I definitely know that you can make a huge shift in people's lives and helping them get on the right track, even if they veered off, you guys, audience. I just want you to know that with God, all things are possible, and Sean is here. I'm here. Everybody is here to help you, but you have to open your mouth. And you have to just let people know. I'm not saying you have to let the world know, hey, I have a problem, but you do have to go to whoever you feel comfortable with. And that's the reason why I started the Love of Heart movement, was to give you various options. I'm going to have about 260 people over the next 12 months on this radio show for you to access. They'll be readily available. They wouldn't have agreed to come on the show if they didn't want to help people. So I want you to get Sean's email, get his website, get anything that you need, because he is committed to helping those who asked him for help. So if you need any type of help to make a shift in your life, I'm encouraging you to contact him. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much, Sean, for the interview.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Okay, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right.